There's the bear. We've been asked to wait underneath the bear. So here he is. That's the door to the cave.
We have some important safety information. So today's tour will last for about 40 to 45 minutes. We're going to venture half a kilometre into the cave. During this tour there will be 8 stops. We will cross 2 bridges and go down 22 steps. We won't be coming back up those steps because we are going to follow a circular route out of a man-made tunnel back to the exit at the very end. This is a naturally formed cave, so it can get a bit low in some areas. For that reason, I will frequently remind you to mind your heads. The floor can get a bit damp as well, so mind your step. Flash photography is permitted. Please be considerate of each other's eyes when using the flash feature. And if you find the cave is not for you, that's absolutely fine. You may turn around and leave before or at the first stop. After that, we must remain as a group for safety purposes. Now, before we enter the cave, do we have any questions? All ready to go?
Yep.
Fantastic.
4-year-old. Why did you well, if there's sidewalks,
Those are the
she needs to
cave.
walk
Timbu's the tallest.
from the top, she doesn't need to. I'm tired. Unless there's a...
You have to watch your head while walking through.
But it's good for me.
Year 1940. So one day, Jack was out walking his dog along the mountainside, and all of a sudden, his dog spotted a rabbit. So like any dog would, he decided to go chasing that rabbit, and Jack followed his dog. That's how he found the entrance to this cave. Now, Jack was a very secretive man. He didn't tell anyone about his discovery for 33 years.
Oh my god.
Now, that was until one day he was having a few pints in a local pub, and that was the end of his secret. He started chatting with a few cavers there who came from the University of Bristol. They were excited to hear the news, so they explored the cave for themselves the following day. 2 years later, in 1975, the surrounding land was purchased by 2 families. And in the following year, 1976, the cave was opened to the public. But just before that, there were some excavations done in this area of the cave. And what they found was very interesting. So they found a bear skull that was 10,400 years old.
Wow.
And the leg bone of another bear that was 4,600 years old. These bones belong to the European brown bear. And the European brown bear loved hibernating in this cave because the cave has an all-year temperature of 10 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, to give you an idea of where the bears would have laid down in the cold winter months, I do have this pit to show you where the light is shining. So that is called a hibernation pit, and that is also where we found the bones of the European brown bear. Now, none of you need to worry about being attacked by one of these bears today, because they have been extinct in Ireland for 3,000 years. But to give you an idea of what they would have looked like, I do have a friend to show you. Now. So guys, this is Dusty the bear. Every day we have many tours coming in and out of the cave, waking him up. He does get a bit grumpy when he wakes up, so if he does wake up, you can expect a nice loud greeting. Brace yourselves for that. Like I said a bit earlier, these European brown bears would have gone extinct about 3,000 years ago in Ireland. That was mainly due to deforestation and hunting by man. However, they can still be found in some European countries, for example, Finland and Russia.
That's our second stop.
It was discovered, so now I'd like to speak with you about how it formed. So if you look around, you'll see that you're completely surrounded by limestone rock. This limestone is approximately 330 million years old.
Ooh.
So this would have formed when sediment like sand, silt, shells, and the skeletal remains of various sea creatures were compressed into a tropical seabed by the pressure of the water above. That would have happened back when Ireland was located about 10 degrees south of the equator, similar to where Brazil is today. Now, thanks to tectonic movements, Ireland has moved into the position it's in today, and following an ice age millions of years ago, the water levels receded, and so Ireland emerged out of the water. We do have some evidence that Ireland was once submerged in a tropical sea, and it's reflected on the ceiling. So if you look to the shadow of my finger up on the ceiling, it's pointing to this white circle. Can you see that, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so these white circles are called brachiopods. They're similar to a modern-day oyster that was fossilized into the limestone back when Ireland was submerged in a tropical sea.
Wow.
Now, guys, this cave would have begun forming just under 2 million years ago, when melted ice from an ice age would have flowed down through the limestone, and as it flowed through the limestone, it would erode the limestone, and that created underground streamways. So this cave would have begun up here in this semicircular formation known as the phreatic tube. So when the phreatic tube first began forming, it would have been completely circular in shape, and it would have been the same size as a wedding ring. So the water would have flowed through the tube like so, and the pressure of the water flowing through the tube would lead to the tube expanding gradually over many years. About 12,000 years ago, after the last ice age we had, the water levels receded and the water started to erode the sides and the base of the phreatic tube. So the rocks on either side became weaker and they collapsed inwards, giving us this spacious cavern that we're standing in today. It's called flowstone. Many people refer to this particular formation as the frozen river, because it really does look like a river frozen in time. Now these next few may appear as optical illusions to you. It depends on how you see it. If you look just beneath the ceiling over here, you can see what appears to be two hands joined together in prayer. So we call these the praying hands. Below that we have our calcite curtains because of the way they hang down. And just over there, I'm sure many of you have been to our Birds of Prey Centre. So over there, where there's a shadow being projected, we have our little barn owl. Some people say it looks a bit more like a penguin or a puffin. It's all up to interpretation. It just goes to show that these calcite formations come in various shapes and sizes. Now, just before we do head off, guys, I'd like to let you know we will be crossing our first bridge very shortly, this waterfall. So this is what we call a weather-dependent waterfall. Now, as the name suggests, it is completely dependent on how much rainfall there is outside. So over the last few days, there has been a good bit of rain coming in, but if we had heavy rain over a long period of time, you definitely would not be able to hear me speak right now. The downpour can get a lot more intense, even to the point where we can experience the occasional splash of water up onto the bridge. Now, if you look below, you should be able to see the water level down there. And the water level never really rises too much beyond that point. That's because the limestone below is porous. It has microscopic holes in it, and that will allow the water to travel through it quite easily. Which of course means that the water's going somewhere underground. And so a couple of years ago, we put red coloured food dye into the water to see where it would go. It first appeared in the pond near our Birds of Prey Centre, and after that it flowed into Ballyvaughn Bay. Now, I'd like to draw your attention up to the ceiling. We have some formations hanging down from the ceiling, and they are called straw stalactites. The reason they're called straw stalactites is because they are similar to drinking straws in the sense that they are completely hollow in the center. So these form when rainwater drips from the ceiling. Each time the rainwater drips from the ceiling, it deposits a ring of calcite. These are the fastest growing structures in the cave. They grow at a rate of 1 centimeter every century. So very quick, yeah. They grow to about 20 to 30 centimeters in length, and after that they are so fragile they will break off under their own weight. But I'll talk a bit more about them in our next stop. Now, just before the rainwater, like I said, drips through the hollow center. When it gets to the end, it deposits a ring of calcite, making them longer over many hundreds of years. Now, sometimes the calcite in the rainwater can harden in the hollow center. And the rainwater can also carry in debris like sand and dirt. So all of that contributes to the blockage of the center. So once the center gets blocked off, the rainwater is forced to flow around the outside. Meaning the calcite in that rainwater is also forced to deposit around the outside as well. That gives us a brand new formation called true stalactites. So, as you can see, thanks to the calcite depositing around the outside, the true stalactites become a lot more thick and sturdy, and so they won't break off under their own weight like the straw stalactites will. So the rainwater continues to drip down from the true stalactites and onto the ground where more calcite will deposit, and that's when we get another formation called a stalagmite. The stalagmite is a lot more dense in composition, and it's not as long. The main reasons are, number one, most of the calcite deposits above on the true stalactites, and number two, the stalagmite is going up against the force of gravity. So to give you all an idea of what happens when a stalactite and a stalagmite finally meet, we have this formation where the light is shining all the way down there. If you can't see it too well right now, you might catch a better glimpse on the way out, but that takes thousands of years to occur. That is called a column or a pillar. To give you another example of a stalagmite, we have this brilliant formation right here. We call this one our unicorn horn. You're probably wondering how this has formed, given that there is seemingly no stalactite above feeding it drops of water. But if you look very closely above, you will actually see a very small straw stalactite, about 1 to 2 centimeters in length, and that's continuously feeding the stalagmite drops of water. Now, this formation here has been dated. It is 8,000 years old. We believe this is the oldest formation within our cave system. Now, when Jack McGann first entered this cave, he would have only had a candle and a few matches as his light source. So he didn't have these LED lights or these phones or torches. As you can imagine, it would have been a lot more dark for him. Today, I'd like to give you all the unique experience of seeing just how dark the cave can get. So if I could have your permission, could I turn the lights out for 10 to 15 seconds?
Sure.
Is that all good?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so turn off any phones or lock any phones or cameras. Very shortly, we will be crossing our second bridge. To the left, it will get a lot more narrow as you're crossing the bridge, so please mind your heads and your shoulders to the left as we cross the bridge, and please mind your step around here. There's a bit of a dip here. Thank you very much.
This is where we kind of turn back in the cave.
So that will take about 2 hours to drain out. So the natural drainage of the limestone rock here is excellent. At this point, we are 100 meters above sea level, and we have approximately 90 meters of rock directly above our heads to the top of the mountain. Now, if you do look above, you'll see we followed in the semicircular formation, the phreatic tube, all the way into the cave, and it does continue in that direction for about 1 kilometer. To give you an idea of why we don't go down there, it's because beyond those rocks there is a 6-meter vertical drop downward. After that there are a few canals, one deep and one shallow, and then there's a small lake. If you guys wanted to get through that lake, you would have to crawl on your hands and your knees with water up to your chin and the ceiling just above your heads. After that, you'd come to the first of 2 sumps. Those are U-shaped and they are completely submerged in water, so you would need diving gear to get through that.
How long?
And then, sorry?
How long?
How long does it go back?
No, dive.
How long? Oh, I'm not sure exactly how long you'd have to dive under for, but I do know you need an oxygen tank, you need a wetsuit, everything. Yeah, you'd need diving gear, absolutely. And so then after that, you'd find the cave narrows down to a dead end. And it narrows down so much that you physically could not turn around. You would have to crawl out backwards at that point. Only 7 cavers have made it to the very dead end. So you'll all be relieved to hear it's not part of the tour today. So guys.
Look at this bat walking down. Walking out, actually. So pretty.
Was completely natural, but it narrowed in so much beyond a certain point that we just could not get through. And so in the year 1992, we hired a Welsh mining company to blast this tunnel open using explosives. That was a 4-month operation, and it left behind just under 5,000 tons of limestone rock. That limestone was then repurposed along our 26-acre site, and that's why you see it in places like the Birds of Prey Centre and the car park. The main reason for the operation was to allow a nice one-way route back to the exit, because before that tunnel existed, we would have walked all the way out there, back to where we came from, and that means tours clashing together, which is not ideal, especially in the busy summer months, when we have about 25 people on each tour. Now, if you look down the tunnel, it does continue for about 250 meters. So I'm now going to light the way up with our LED lights. And this tunnel will take us to our next and our final stop. Thank you all very much for listening. Please down here behind me. But we don't go down there. That's because that's the home of the lesser horseshoe bat. So shortly, you're going to see a projection up on this rock, and that will give you an idea of what the bats look like. So their bodies are quite small, about 3 centimeters in length, the same size as my thumb. When they're flying around, they do appear a lot larger than that because their wingspan is 20 to 25 centimeters. They are a protected species of bat that can only be found in the west coast of Ireland and UK. The main reason they're a protected species is because they cannot physically crawl. They have a fleshy mass surrounding their nose in the shape of a horseshoe, hence their name, the lesser horseshoe bat. That fleshy mass will help them amplify the frequencies that they project, and when they get the feedback from the echoes, they can tell the size, the shape, and the texture of their surroundings. During hibernation, these bats can actually slow their heart rates down to 1 beat every 30 minutes.
Ooh.
They have 1 pup each year between June and July, and every year the National Park and Wildlife Service will count the bats for us. Most recently in late January, that number was recorded at 129, and that number year to year is rising. So that's a very positive story for these endangered bats. Now that does conclude our tour, but just before we wrap it up, do we have any questions? Any questions?
Do the bats ever leave the cave?
Yeah, they do. So when they get hungry, they need to fly out over this gate to the exit, and they'll go to the car park then, find some insects to eat, and that's because there's not really many insects in the cave at all. So yeah, they do leave the cave, yeah. Thanks for the question.